In the step 4, we deal with the biggest achievement of the IT history, which is an essential part of our daily handling of information. It is officially approved in large parts of public and personal correspondence, and is therefore one of the major risk areas for companies and public authorities for the misused handling of personal data. Correct. We are talking about electronic correspondence by email. Our ability to send emails also allows grossly negligent IT laypersons to violate the GDPR. Let's say you are already encrypting your electronic correspondence in accordance with GDPR. What's the use of encryption if we have a case of grossly negligent behavior? Or we could put it like this. Would you transport stolen goods in a theft-proof way by a security company to the dealer? Although you have technically protected the content of the mail with encryption, you are not sure whether the email contains prohibited content or an attachment containing personal data that is misused and thereby contradicting its legitimacy. Now take this example and assume this message is encrypted. Stefan sends John an email. Within the email is an Excel file in the attachment. Stefan has exported data from the company CRM for John. Now let's read the text. Although the text itself does not contain any personal data, it describes very well the sensitive nature of a very typical case. Why John wants to have this data in Excel file and why he does not work with them directly from the company's CRM itself, seriously compromises the purpose. By sending this email, the misuse is already predetermined. But Stefan makes it worse and puts 2 colleagues on CC so they can also have the copies, having thought that they can have use for it as well. He thinks ahead and he sends it to his private anonymous mailbox on a BCC too. This is a classic case of intentional data crime. With this terrible example, we present you a GDPR disaster beyond all expectations, which however happens in most enterprises in smaller or larger gradations on a daily basis. Sometimes personal data are found in the subject line, more often in the message body and most likely as an attachment in many email messages. In terms of labor law, the violation is not insignificant and must also be observed in several stages. While this in a part could end up with a warning to the employees concerned, sending it to an unknown email address is certainly harder to prosecute. Even violation of the simplest of privacy policies should be understood by the employee as a declaration of obligation. Although the abusive handling of personal data was forbidden long before the GDPR entering into force on May 25, 2018, a new era has started. First of all, the complexity of various laws within the EU member states has been eliminated. Secondly, with the creation of an EU standard, the authorities will have a much easier way to conduct audits following the same standards and punish companies in case of violation much harder than before, because cross-border comparisons are now possible between the different regulators. So how do you detect an abuse of your employee without violating his personal environment? Especially because employees are often coming into contact with the personal data with their daily work anyway. So how can I operate in accordance both with labor law and the GDPR? In this context, we provide the labor and the protective measures with regard to the compliance of any duties and safety regulations of particular importance. It is therefore not a matter of controlling the private use of corporate email addresses, but strictly a technical control of the email traffic for the purpose of adherence to security policies, which are part of the employee contract, operational agreement, or in any other governing arrangement. At the same time, we support the employer in his obligation of training and further education of employees and in raising awareness of these, in accordance with the agreed GDPR safety guidelines. Raising awareness among your employees takes on a new dimension regardless of the industry or activity. While the privacy of employees is protected, we strictly pay attention to the punishable misuse of personal and company data. The architecture of our robotic GRC 365 software solution, guarantees a selective approach to identifying potential risks in daily email traffic in the company. We use techniques that allow us to specifically identify and isolate the risk, so that the correct conclusions and follow-up action can be taken later. The entire content as well as the meaningfulness of an email is thereby ignored in order to ensure the confidentiality, no matter if the email is related to business or private. With our mental lexicon, we focus only on the subject line and message body of the email, and specifically search for terms that justify the presumption to have personally identifiable information in the content. This search function can be performed in the world's top 30 languages and extends to all the folders of the affected email account. The more often the terms from the mental lexicon are found in the email, the risk of an email is evaluated as greater. If a GDPR relevance is determined, a detailed observation of the email takes place automatically. Only then sender, recipient, visible copy recipient or CC, invisible copy recipient or BCC, and the name of all attached data and documents will be searched. Because Robotic GRC 365 has built up its knowledge about your enterprise in the first 3 steps, we will get the necessary insights into the following questions. First, are GDPR relevant information actually content of emails in your company and in what intensity? Second, which departments and employees deal with the sending of personal data and are they allowed to do so? Third, are any GDPR relevant data sent outside your company and does this comply with the contract regulations and service agreements of third parties? Fourth, is the company's email system used for file transfer? If so, which file formats and sizes are sent? Are personal data content of these files? By which persons and on which computers are this data processed? On which computers are the same or different versions of this data stored? What is the origin of this data? Fifth, are there any violations of the GDPR that are intentional? Sixth, what must be included in the instruction or training of employees? Seventh, for what risk is your company going to be persecuted in relation to the non-compliant GDPR data handling? We would like to highlight an additional advantage of Robotic GRC 365. This enhancement now allows us to extend the GDPR compliance to the following articles and to comply your email system with them as well. Article 15, Article 17, Article 30, Article 31, Article 33, Article 34, and Article 35. Finally, we point out that our algorithm completely refrains from processing, gathering, or collecting your company's data outside of your computer network. Therefore, there is no physical movement of analyzed and verified data within or outside of your IT network. GDPR Risk and its partners are looking forward to a successful cooperation and to the opportunity to advise your company in terms of GDPR audit.